Hi, I'm Jeff Goulding and I'm a Liverpool author.
And I'm Kieran Smith, the Liverpool historian.
Together, we've been working on a great new project, which is a book out later this year entitled The Untouchables, Anfield's Band of Brothers.
It's a great story about one of the greatest sides in Liverpool's history who won back-to-back titles in the 1920s.
Yeah, this is a team that is absolutely packed with incredible characters. Men who fought on the battlefields of Europe in the First World War and returned home to claim 2 league titles in a row.
And it's due for release in the UK in September. And thanks to our friendship now with the Liverpool Connection podcast, it's also going to be made available through them in the United States at the same time.
Welcome to a very special Liverpool Connection podcast today, as it is our 1-year anniversary. I can't believe we've made it a whole year. Yay! Fireworks. Myself, Steve and Nikki would like to thank everyone that has tuned in and subscribed this year. Today, I couldn't be more happier, and it's a privilege and an honour to have this man come on. He is former Liverpool and Republic of Ireland international, Mr. Ronnie Whelan.
Good afternoon, good morning, how is everyone?
Good. Absolutely fantastic to have you on. Got lots of things to ask you, and I'm sure hopefully you've got some great stories to tell me and Steve and the listeners.
I'll answer all your questions, Daz, but I'm not going to say the truth.
Maybe we'll play Truth or Dare then.
Yeah.
Let's get started. I mean, when did you start playing football? Or when?
I was a baby, Dad. But my dad was a League of Ireland footballer. Got a couple of caps for the Republic of Ireland in the early 60s. So I was just brought up into a football atmosphere all the time. I used to go with my younger brother Paul. We used to go on the back of the team bus when he played League of Ireland. I was taking the whole thing in all the time, the smells, the laughter, then the match, then coming back, either the disappointment or the joy of coming back after a match. I was picking that up for years. So I was playing my dad brought me to a very, very legendary sort of schoolboy outfit in Dublin called Home Farm. I was there from when I was about 6 years of age, playing little games. Then progressed, went into the first team at Home Farm when I was 16, and then Liverpool came knocking early 79, mid 79.
Well, a little bird told me you actually trained with Man United, right? As a trainee.
I was at Man United for every school holiday for probably 2 or 3 years. I was a Man U fan. Going back as a kid, 60s, George Best. That's where you're gonna be a supporter of George Best. Although he's from the north of Ireland, he was Irish to me, and I wanted to, in his footsteps, go to Manchester United. And I was asked to go when I was 13 or 14. I think the first time I went. Had a trial for 2 weeks. Then they invited me back over for another 2 weeks. They offered me an apprenticeship at 15. My dad didn't bar me from going or ban me from going. He said it would be better if you didn't go and you finished school. I was really, really disappointed. I wanted to go at 15. But in hindsight, probably the greatest thing that my dad had ever done for me was not letting me go at 15. Too young.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't really come back shouting when I was 17, 18, Man United. And that's when I had a call from Liverpool to go and do a couple of weeks training. And then from there, Liverpool offered me a 3-year contract, which was great when I was 18.
Yeah, when you just turned 18, right?
Yes, I was over there just before my 18th birthday. They said they wanted to sign me. I went back to Dublin. They said, go back to Dublin, get yourself sorted out, whatever you've got to do. Have a couple of weeks back in Dublin, say goodbye to everyone, and then come over and get yourself going. Obviously, wasn't great when I came back. You're coming back early October, mid-October. I hadn't done a pre-season to the standard they would do it. So I was getting in the A team, maybe a game in the reserves, back into the A team. So I was flitting about till the start of the next season when I got stronger, I got fitter in pre-season. I started to learn what it was like to be a professional footballer. Found it difficult, homesickness. Mm-hmm. Training was difficult every day. I'd never done that in my life. So bed in the afternoon became a big routine. And then, as I say, I got stronger, got better, and then started to work my way up.
When was the first time you actually met Bob?
Believe it or not, Bob picked me up the second time, I think it was. It would have been the second time. When I came to sign, Bob came to pick me up from the airport, and I couldn't believe it. Me and my dad walked into the airport. We were told we would be picked up by someone. And then when we walked through, Bob Paisley was sitting there in his long green cardigan down to his knees. And then didn't have a frigging clue what he said, and then have never understood him since. He was all arms from that one and that one. So yeah, buddy, great manager.
Steve.
Hey, good morning, Ronnie. Good to see you again. Yeah, for those that don't know, we had the opportunity to bring Ronnie to Austin as part of one of our Legends Nights, and it was a great experience. That whole weekend was fun. I got to play some golf with you, so I always appreciate catching back up with you, and you're looking great and sounding.
You forgot about the beers.
Great. Yeah, I'm surprised you survived the weekend. We had a couple. we had a couple pints.
Yeah, I'm Irish.
We had a couple pints, that's for sure, right?
Yeah.
One of my favorite memories of that weekend when you came is that after we played golf, we went back to the clubhouse. We're just sitting there having a couple of pints, and then somebody just random in the middle of Texas at a golf course comes up to you and says, "Are you Ronnie Whelan?" And then you guys, and that gentleman happened to be from Ireland and a huge footy fan, and you guys started talking, and he's like, "I remember you scoring this goal," and I was just sitting there just amazed just how small the world is,
Yes, yeah, it is amazing. Actually, I remember talking about the smallness of the world. I remember Stevie Highway saying they're getting players in from everywhere now into the academy, and he went, the world is a very small place now. We're getting on planes and things like that. It doesn't take you long to get anywhere.
Yeah. Now, I know you already touched about being signed by Paisley, after he's taken over from the great Bill Shankly. That had to have been quite the feeling and have an honor to be, being viewed by Liverpool as worthy enough to come to that team, because obviously it was just starting to be, part of that dynasty.
Steve, I looked around at the team, and although it was Man United, would have been my first choice at that age as well. I looked around the team and I went, I'll never get a game. Mm-hmm. But my dad was saying to me, well, at least you're starting from the top. And if it doesn't work out at Liverpool, we can get somewhere a little bit lower down and we'll see where it goes. And I thought, well, yeah, might as well. We'll give that a go. I'll start at the best club who are winning everything. And who knows, I may get in. If not, as he said, I had options to go back. My family was still in Dublin. I could have gone back there. But fortunate enough, I stuck at it. And then the next thing, you're walking into a dressing room and then you've got Dalglish, Souness, Ray Clements, Phil Neal, Jimmy Case, Ray Kennedy. They were still around, Davy Jono. It was an honour, but a pretty scary thing walking in and seeing them.
Yeah, as a young player, and then first year you didn't really feature a lot, but then the second year, and you started featuring and then taking over really Ray Kennedy's spot, right? And so how did the rest of the team, how they view, here comes this young guy, he's taking over one of our mainstays of our team that's been greatly successful the past few years. So was there any animosity there, or they're just saying, hey, we want to just keep kicking it on?
There's never any animosity. The older lads, the likes of Kenny and Suey and all that, it was funny when you got into the first team squad. If they were giving you stick, if they were taking the mickey out of you, if they were laughing at you, if they were joking with you, you had a chance. Mm-hmm. If they didn't speak to you, then you sort of knew well, yeah, they don't really believe I'm good enough. But as I came into the team, I was with Rushy. So two of us were 18, 19. We had been fairly matey in the reserves. Now we were rooming together, going away with all the big lads. We would go to a room like two kids, hoping we were going to play the next day. But they took the mickey out of Rushy relentlessly. But it was better. Rushy always thought they were against them, and you're trying to say, well, they're not. They just were having a laugh or mess. He struggled a little bit, Rushy, at the start. And then it all became, you get a few games under your belt. He's scoring goals. I'm scoring goals from left midfield. The two of us are kids in a candy store every day. It's brilliant for us. We don't have to always be there next to Rushy or next to Kenny or next to whoever, Suey. We had our own little group. But the first team lads start to respect you then. They see what you do. And then it's the time for learning. Now, if you're doing things wrong, now they're going to be on your back about what you're doing wrong. But I always went back to, as long as they're speaking to you, you must be doing okay.
Yeah, it would imagine, especially during that time, the substitution patterns were pretty tight. You weren't getting a game unless, there was a need for it. So I imagine that once you got into that starting lineup, you're like, okay, let's make sure this is the right position now.
We used to have a meeting every Friday morning at Melwood, and we'd sit around the table at Melwood before Bob would come in to do his team talk. Kenny Dalglish had superstition that we had to have chocolate McVitie's every Friday morning with a cup of tea before training, so we'd all have our biscuits. And then nowadays you'd all sit around, you'd have a big meeting with films and charts everywhere. Most Friday mornings, unless there was a problem, most Friday mornings, Bob Paisley would stick his head around the door and go, same team, same sub. There was one sub back then. So that was all Bob's team meeting was on a Friday morning. If they needed tweaking something to get across, Bob would come in and speak for 10 or 15 minutes. Again, we wouldn't have had a frigging clue what he was saying, but he spoke for 10 or 15 minutes. And that was basically, this is the team, that's the sub. Go out, and if you win the game again, you stayed more or less the same the next week.
I would imagine, being a young player on that team, you could just play your game. You're not having to carry the team. You don't have a lot of responsibilities. You can really concentrate on your own game.
Yeah, my game was down up side, that left-hand side, hold your position. Alan Kennedy runs away wherever Alan used to run. I was sitting there waiting for him to get back in. Be on the back post. If the ball was on the right, be on the back post, try and come in around. Rushy's job was to score goals. If he was doing that, he was okay. If I'm doing the job on the left side of midfield, I'm okay. And there was times when I was getting a lot of stick from a section of the crowd, probably second season. But I always had it in my head that if the manager is playing me week in, week out, I must be doing something right. I must be doing the job he wants me to do. So despite of all the flack I was getting from the Kenlin Road stand, I always was, well, I must be doing something all right for the team.
Is it?
Oh, I was going to say, what were some of the things they were shouting at you?
Honestly, true story. Game on a Saturday at Anfield. We're kicking into the cop end, actually. I'm standing in front of the Kenlin, and next thing a lad screams, "Friggin' hell, Whelan, get in the game, will you?" And I turned round, and Graham Souness and Terry Mack were just inside me. The two of them were on the ground laughing. This fella's shouting at me to get in the game, and we hadn't kicked off. We hadn't started the game. And we were just laughing because that was what I was getting week in, week out from this. I don't know how many of them there was. But there was only probably 5 or 6 mates who just took it at Whelan's crap. Let's get on his back every week. It's funny when fans think, oh, the crowd don't shout at you, do they? Try and stand in that position some Saturdays and which would have been equally as bad over the far side, standing alongside Ronnie Moran, because he'd friggin' slaughter you anyway as well. So, first half, second half, I was getting it always.
Yeah, but you proved them wrong, didn't you? That's the
probably the same fellas said, I always said he'd be better if he went in centre midfield.
I guarantee that fella is probably still at Anfield shouting at other people. He's like
he's probably still shouting "Whelan, get in the game."
It's like the old fella, at the pub that's always there on the same chair, all the time, just
that's my chair,
moaning about everything.
Yeah, it was a bit like that, to be fair.
So, if the listeners didn't know already, Ronnie played for Liverpool from 81 to 94, 493 appearances. That's madness. And
Friggin' Roy Evans got rid of me just before me 500.
Bastard.
Never forgive him.
And 73 goals in all competitions.
73, yeah.
That's amazing.
More than John Aldrich, more than Davy Fairclough.
Yeah. More than Ray Clemens.
All day, yeah. I scored 2 or 3 against him, so that's...
when he played for Spurs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's talking about his own goal. Yeah.
No, that's not been mentioned yet, the own goal. That was another one I always said I wanted to score for Man United, so I had to get it out of the way.
Yeah, but you scored against Liverpool as a Man United player when you were on the reserve team, didn't you?
As you say, when I was there as a associate schoolboy forms, I think you had to sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
And we beat them 5-2. Man United beat Liverpool 5-2 at the Cliff, the old training ground at Man United, and I scored a goal. Very good. Well done.
Thank you. Can't let you forget that part.
No, that's part of the career.
Yeah, one of the obviously so many honors, but one of the honors you got to win the European Cup in Rome. Can you tell us about your experience and maybe share a story or two about that?
It was all magnificent. Everything's great about winning the league and winning the FA Cup. I hadn't won the FA Cup. Winning the League Cup 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to a Champions League final, as it is now, European Cup final back then, it was just a whole new sphere. Playing in Europe was a whole different thing than playing league games week in, week out. The difference when you had to go away from home, that you cannot let the crowd get on your back. You have got to quieten the crowd down. All different ways. But once we got to the final, there's police escorts when you get off the plane. There's everybody's looking after you. But then to do it as we did it, and I don't ever believe that we got the plaudits that we should have got for winning the European Cup in Rome in '84 against Roma. Their home ground. I think it was 3/4 of the ground were Roma fans. Mm-hmm. I think that probably the only reason we didn't get as many plaudits was because we won it on penalties. If we had won it normal time, but we won it, and it was just a great experience of, again, how to go about it. Because in the tunnel before the game, and it's well documented with Liverpool people, but we started singing a Chris Rea song called "I Don't Know What It Is, But I Love It," and now I don't know what affected. The Roma players were walking alongside us into the tunnel. We'd been waiting there a little bit. They left us there a little bit longer. And it came from Davy Hodgson and Craig Johnson, 2 Geordies who played for Sunderland or Middlesbrough. And they started singing. It went all the way down the line of the Liverpool team. And as the Roma players were walking along, people say, it had an effect on the Roma players. They must have listened. I don't think it had any effect on, because they had a brilliant team. World Cup winners and everything were in the team. And I think it had more of an effect on us, that it got us together. We're all in this together. It doesn't matter whether we're in Rome, playing Rome on their own ground. We're together. We're as good as anybody. And for me, it just got us all together. And we went out as a team, as all the subs. We're all part of this. And we won it in the end. We've done really, really well to win it.
Yeah, playing that in your opponent's home stadium can be fun. There's, I guess a lot of people probably don't know that, there was a lot of controversy over Roma's victory in the semifinals, paying off the refs and things like that. So, I mean, you're going into this hostile environment. And
was it Dundee or Dundee United?
Yeah, Dundee United, yeah. So, back then there was a lot of corruption, in Italian football. And it
you came away from a few games in Europe when you'd played, thinking what's gone on.
Right.
And they were in that era. They were very crafty. The Italians. There was a lot of shirt pulling, hair pulling. There was a lot of spitting going on back then in the early 80s as well, which wasn't nice. But they were very. They'd do things. They'd pinch you, and then you'd go to hit them. They'd fall down. Players getting sent off because of that. They had a lot of tricks, to put it mildly, in their book.
Was there a vast difference in the way that they played their football on the continent versus how style in England?
They wanted to slow everything down. They wanted to keep the ball. They wanted to get passes. English teams were more get it down, get it up to the forward, then push you up, close them in. The Italians like to keep it and keep it and keep it, and then get into positions. You know what? You even look at it now, a bit like Man City now, Liverpool when they're playing well. A lot of possession, then they try and get into areas, get crosses into the box. They were more skilled at keeping the ball than we felt. We kept it fairly well, but the foreign teams were a little bit ahead of us keeping it that way.
I think, the integration of the European and South American players into the English game, as finally it's reaping the benefits at the top level of English football right now. It seems like that style.
When the likes of Overmars and Bergkamp and Vieira and all these are at Arsenal, brilliant to watch. Henry, a little bit before that, early 90s for me, there was an awful lot of bad European players coming in. That it was cheaper, you see. So you go abroad, go to the backs of Hungary or Poland or something, find a player, bring him in. He's a very good player. It's only going to cost us this. And they weren't that good. But then when the team started going out and picking from the top ones, as I say, Vieira, Petit, Bergkamp, these sort of players coming in, Cantona, there was some extremely good players, and they have got better over time.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of maybe when John Barnes came to Liverpool, right? That was kind of a different type of player than a lot of the league had been used to. And it changed the way that you were able to play in your positioning. I think your position changed when Barnes came on too, right?
Yes, when Barnes came, a lot of people said that was me finished on the left side of midfield, but I went centre midfield and played the best football I'd played in my career from the centre. I was more involved. I loved every minute of it. I wanted to play there. Delighted I didn't have to hold that wing position all the time. I was more of the holding midfielder. If Macca was playing, Steve McMahon, if he was playing alongside me, he'd get forward and I would sit in there. A bit like your modern day Fabinho, or not Fabinho. Yeah, Fabinho would be, or Fernandinho at Man City, that sort of a player.
Your boots were probably a lot cleaner. You wouldn't have to hug that touch line all the time.
Yeah, the white, get the white off my boots. And I didn't have to listen to that fella either shouting at me.
The furthest away you were from the manager, the better.
Yeah. I'm right in the middle. I'm not moving.
I guarantee you was shouting louder.
Yeah, he had a big halo thing.
I actually wanted to go back to that Chris Rea song because there is a great book written by Tony Evans called I Don't Know What It Is, But I Love It, the Liverpool Unforgettable 83-84 season. And I'm going to read a little excerpt from it, Ronnie, because I want to know the story a bit behind it, because you must have had a great night. Liverpool were in town. The men had been singing pop songs and banging on the tables, chanting the words, I don't know what it is, but I love it. Now they were moving on to a drinking game. Suddenly it kicked off. A scuffle started. Punches were thrown. Word spread rapidly. There's trouble in the square. The news reached the Liverpool team hotel. One of the club's directors, Sid Moss, was angry. Lock them up, he shouted. Like most people in the boardrooms at the game, he was sick of hooligans. He headed to the entrance to see what was happening. Don't call for the police, someone told him. It's not the fans, it's the players.
It's true. It's a true story. learned from Brian Clough, Liverpool, what they did at Notts Forest when they got to European Cup final. Notts Forest at the end of the season went away for a week, and they didn't play any ball. We did play a bit of ball, but we went to Tel Aviv. I think we played a game, but it was more a downtime. It was more to relax and just take your mind. The season's gone. You've won the league. You've won the League Cup. Have a little relax, and we relaxed basically. But there was a big square in Tel Aviv, in the middle of Tel Aviv, all the bars with the seats outside, chairs outside, and we were playing a game called Fizz Buzz, where you say a number or a multiple of that number, and then you had to go down the table. If you got it wrong, it was horrible red wine. You'd have to sort of drink a glass of that. And then Rushy got caught yet again, because Rushy was always getting caught on it because he couldn't count to 7. And then he sort of drank the wine and leaned forward and didn't stop and landed on his nose on the ground. And I think it was Davy Hodgson thought someone had pushed him. So then all the lads, they were drunk. Nobody was hurt. And they were just pushing and shoving, and that's when Mossy. But there was another further story that when Mr. Moss was walking towards the square, David Hodgson and Rushy were walking on the way back, and the two of them, one Hodgie had fell over or something, and the two of them were sort of on the ground trying to get up. And Rushy was saying Davy Hodgson then started grabbing Mr. Moss's leg as he was walking towards him, and he was shouting, "Yahweh, Mossy, old bugger man, you old bugger man," climbing up his leg. And then you go and win the European Cup. Just ridiculous, but it was great for us. It was a downtime. We had a week, 10 days, just chilled out, drank, had a laugh, and then we went and won it.
Yeah, I love those old.
But it is a true story, yes.
Yeah, I love all those old stories, because this day and age, you probably won't hear about, like the players of today doing stuff like that,
I think the nearest I've seen at any stage with footballers was when the Liverpool squad were in Dubai and they were doing the thing on the escalator. Remember the Toure, yeah. That was the only thing I'd ever seen, and they looked as if they'd had a fair few drinks as well.
Yeah.
But, no, you don't see that happening now.
You know what? I remember that video, and I was pissed about it because that was right after we lost 6-1 to Stoke, and in Gerrard's last game. And I'm like, well, how are they partying the day after? So but yeah, I guess you have to just keep everything in context. And you are in Dubai on a free trip, so I guess you have to.
I think it's the context thing. Yeah. See, footballers play a game; they do the best, they want to win. If they lose, especially if I was there, in my point of view, if I lost 6-1, I'd be very wary of what I put on social media or where I went after that. If we lost, I had a pub in Liverpool, I would go back to the pub, have a few pints, go home. And I don't know why I'd go back to the pub. It was my pub with my brother-in-law, and then I'd just get sick when I went to the pub for losing the game. So the context is that footballers can then get rid of it. Yeah. It's gone. I know us now being a fan, I feel today like supporters feel because of what's going on at Liverpool, what happened when they got beat at home by Fulham. So that stays with a supporter. A footballer can't keep it in. He's got to that's gone, and let me go train and I'll get on with the next one.
Well, I mean, they were smart. They didn't come back to Liverpool after the game. They went straight to Dubai.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. A lot of fans start going. When they after a loss, the next day they'll have some pictures taken of them, and then fans will go, "Why are they all smiling?" I mean, but they're human beings. What are they supposed to do? Just be like down and everything. You've got to pick yourself up and go again. Yeah,
but they're not picking themselves up too good at the moment. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, they're still on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting knocked back after knockback, and the whole thing. It's not great what's happening, but it should be better.
Yeah, you mentioned social media, and sometimes we talk about the negative things, but some of the positive is that this generation has been able to learn more about the past generations. It seems like, especially with winning the Champions League recently in the league, now you kind of have this common thread to the older guard, and now everybody's going back and we have these podcasts, and people are writing books. We've been able to learn more about Bill Shankly, Bob Paisley. And so that's been such a great benefit to teach a lot of these younger fans about the history of Liverpool, which
the younger fans in America and China or wherever, the wider world, you get a lot of the fans in England who really know Liverpool if they're a Liverpool fan, but it took a while to spread all the way to Texas. And even when I was over there with you, they didn't know everything, but now, as you're saying, with books and videos, if they know more now than I ever would have known about Liverpool or ever will know about Liverpool, because I'm a Liverpool fan. I'm going to study it. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to see it. Yeah, so it's changed big time.
They probably know more about you than yourself.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that goes on, Daz. You know what? Sometimes you're out somewhere and they go, remember that goal you scored? And I go, well, no, I don't really. And they go, but I was there. I was behind at night. So, yeah, they do remember a lot of things more than I do.
Well, they got to ask that question before the second pint. That's fine.
Yeah.
It would have been funny if one of those lads was like, remember me? I'm the one that was screaming at you on the side of the pitch.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to forget about him, Dad.
Go on, Steve.
Sorry, man. Hey, Hey, Ronnie, I know that you won the 3 FA Cups, and I would imagine that the first one against Everton after Hillsborough had to have been something special for you and the team.
Yeah, that was probably the hardest game I ever played against me. There was so much riding on it. The emotion of Hillsborough, all the fans mixed going the game. It was you're going into it and you're praying and you're hoping I can't lose this game. And then we're winning, and then McCall scores late on in the game, and then you think, oh no, here we go. Luckily, we had a lot of players of the same mind as me at the time that we could not lose this game. We just kept going. It was hard. It was really, really hard. And the whole thing of that, winning the cup final, we got back to Arsenal when we lost the league then after it. Oh, sorry, that 89, Arsenal when we lost the league. Players were just physically and emotionally drained completely. The John Barnes, people blame Barnes for not getting the ball in the corner against Arsenal. John Barnes, if he wasn't so tired and drained emotionally and physically again, would have brought that there. But players weren't thinking properly. We couldn't, your legs wouldn't move like you wanted them to. It just been so tough. People say you're a professional footballer, you should be fit. So much went on that season that we just couldn't raise another gallop to get and win the league. But yeah, emotional, that cup final, yeah.
Yeah, I think some fans just don't understand, that the football players are human beings. So there is a lot going on that, and
well, this was unprecedented, as well. We're going to funerals, we're at Anfield, we're trying to console mothers who've lost sons or brothers who've lost, and we're not counsellors. We weren't counsellors, but we went back and tried, did what we could. We all went to different funerals, so we'd have somebody at the funeral. And then we played 4 games in 7 days or something like that. And it was some ridiculous amount of games we had to fit in at the end because we took a break. And it just all got on top, and we couldn't see it through, unfortunately.
You mentioned all of the mental part of the game, especially that year. We've had people on our guests, ex-players, fans who are just now getting therapy from that year, 30 years on, right? And so I could imagine that even just being there and having to play every week after just had to take a mental toll by the end of the season.
But it's funny as well that I've never been in company of the players of that era and talked about Hillsborough. That doesn't ever come into our conversations, whether it's just that we want to just keep it hidden. We don't want to really talk about it. We know what happened. We did what we had to do. And then whether that's the reason, I don't know, but it's not something we all sit down and go, let's talk about Hillsborough.
Right.
It doesn't come into the conversation.
That's kind of akin to maybe like people in the military. You know, they come back from a war, and they're not going to sit around the barbecue pit and talk about talk about it, right? So imagine. Obviously, you know, you got the 6 leagues. You have one special one in your mind that's your favorite.
First one's always special. Yeah. First one's always special, and then the first and the last are probably the ones you remember. 1990, which was 30 years since they won it again. You know, 1990. I'm thinking we'll win it again in 91. We'll win it in 92. Right. We'll win it in 93. And then things went a little bit awry at the football club in the early 90s, and then it took 30 years for a man called Klopp to come back and win it.
Yeah, you know, it took a special manager, and we had some other ones that weren't so special on the way.
A couple of them did get close. Brendan got a little bit close, and then, but for me, not having the experience of winning it before Brendan, they just couldn't get over the line. And I think a little bit with Hooley and Benitez, maybe. They just didn't have enough to finish it off. Probably the squads were a little bit bare as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you're having to go up against a Mourinho at the end of the season, you know, who has the tactical analysis to grind results, you know, and you're just not adjusting, where you're going for a victory versus just getting a draw at home and things like that. So I mean, a lot of things have to happen, right? So
there was also a lot of an awful lot of times where the scenario changed because big money was coming into different football clubs. Mm-hmm. Liverpool at that time were not really, yes, they were spending, but they weren't spending I don't know the way Chelsea were spending, especially. So that was another reason. But then again, Liverpool are now under Klopp financially. The way he's sold players and brought players in, he's kept it fairly steady. Mm-hmm. And he's been able to go on and win the league because he had the experience, didn't he, at Dortmund? Mm-hmm. How you get to a Champions League final, how you win a league. So the experience of Klopp and his man management has helped, and is why we've won what we've won lately.
You know, speaking of management, you know, a lot of people don't remember that you went into management. You know, you went over to Greece and to Cyprus. Tell us a little bit about your decision to not just go into management, but also go to a foreign country and start coaching there.
I went out when I finished at Liverpool. I went down to Southend just to see a couple more years out. I was 32, 33, mm-hmm. and I thought I'd take me up to 35, and then I'll see what's going on. But when I was at Southend, I took me a coaching badge. Thought I wouldn't mind going into coaching management. Got the manager's job at Southend. That went a little bit stale in the end. So I was back home doing nothing. And I got a phone call from an ex-Manchester United centre-forward called Scott McGarvey. Big blonde-haired centre-forward he was. And he was an agent at the time. And he said, a team called Panionios in Greece are looking for a new manager. They're playing in the cup final against Panathinaikos next Wednesday or whatever. He said, would you be interested? And I said, well, I want to get back into football. So I said, yeah, I'd be interested. I went out to watch the game, Panionios, Panathinaikos. Panionios won the cup final. They're now into Europe in the Cup Winners' Cup. That swayed my mind also. I'll go out there, play in Europe, maybe just get myself noticed around and see how that went. Got to the quarter-final of the European Cup Winners' Cup. Mm-hmm. They didn't do a bad job out there. But they wanted to go a different way in the end. A new chairman comes in, and so there was all that. Then I went to Cyprus, same thing again. We're doing okay. A new chairman come in, and then I was on my way. And then I just had enough. It was like, I can't. You know, you're doing a half-decent job. You're getting these teams to Europe, and then you just sort of get pushed out. So, yeah, that was me then. I had me little go at it. I tried, but it wasn't for me in the end.
Ah, well.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, you got to try it first, you know. That's what they say.
Yeah, you got to stay away from the beaches in Greece, you know, you'd be all right.
The good part about Cyprus and Greece, Cyprus especially, was, you know, you do have the beaches and the sun all the time. Now and again, it's extremely hot, but there was golf out there as well. So, Yeah,
probably had your best tan at that time too.
But I'm Irish. I said, Steve, look, I do not go brown.
I was just about to say, an Irishman in the sun.
It's just pink. No, an Irishman stays in the bar when the sun's out.
That's right.
So, Ronnie, how long does it take, to dust off your medals every day?
I know, yeah. I've got a nice little place. Now, they were in the bank for years, my medals, because of when I went abroad. I wasn't staying in the house, but now I've got them. I've got them back out of the bank, and now I've got them in a nice little place where I keep them, and I'm happy with them there. People say, "Would you ever sell them?" I don't think I'd ever sell the medals. Got a couple of nice little bits of memorabilia. I've got the '89 Cup final ball against Everton, because you're captain. The winning captain gets the ball. Charity Shield against Wimbledon. I've got the ball because Wembley again. Mm-hmm. And I've also got the little hat-trick ball. I got a hat-trick against Coventry and kept the ball as well. So yeah, there's little ones. I wouldn't say they mean more, but there's a lot of players with European Cup medals, and there's a lot of players with League Cup winners' medals and league medals. But there's not many players with the ball from the 1989 FA Cup final.
That's right. At least one, right?
I mean,
that's it.
If some of the viewers don't know already, 6 league titles, 1 European Cup, 3 League Cups, and 2 FA Cups. I mean, what a career!
It's great looking back on it. Me as a player, honestly,